All right. Blessings in the Son of God from the San Gabriel Valley. And the cementing of the New World Order. We've talked about the New World Order I've been hearing about the New World Order since the very early 90s, part of a patriot movement back then. And the talk was always that the New World Order was coming. Also with the understanding that it had already begun in some sense, in a big way. And what time marker you use for the beginning of the New World Order depends. But what we see now is that the New World Order, the snake of the New World Order, the centerpiece of the New World Order is Israel. Okay, modern day Israel. And they are making moves, and we're going to watch a video from the Jimmy Dore show, and I'll comment on it. And then I'll relate this to Bible prophecy, but also as Americans, we got to decide whether we want to preserve our nation the way it was originally founded as a Christian republic, because we are fast losing our identity as Americans, as Christians, as a Christian nation, as a republic, a free republic with free speech. Because in America, there can be no hate speech. There's no such thing as hate speech. That's a figment of an imagination construed by Bolshevik Jews. And the result of us losing this nation to Israel, it is not going to be good. It's already, America, the way we knew it, is already fading, and it's fading fast. If we don't put a stop to it now, multitudes of generations, several generations ahead of us, are going to be ruined. So I'm going to play that. Play that video. Let's bring that on. And there we go.
One month ago, December 9th, Javier Milei announced that foreigners could buy Argentinian land and develop it after fires. Isn't that convenient? He also, even more conveniently, cut the funding for fire services around 70%.
I'd like to talk to you about what's happening in Argentina, and it looks like another Israel-funded atrocity is happening. Here's Israel tourists caught causing huge fires in Argentina in a forest full of natural resources. An Israeli tourist was caught lighting fires in Los Glaciares National Park in the Argentina Patagonia a couple of days ago, and that's the fire that they caused. And now we know Argentina exposes Israeli takeover plan. The government is in on it. Manuel Adomi, the Argentina presidential spokesman, just blew the lid on the secret Israeli operation. Israelis are starting massive fires in Argentina to exploit a loophole recently placed by the Zionist government into Argentinian law. So we protected rural and conserved lands can now be sold to foreign private entities once a fire passes through. They used to be illegal in Argentina. So Javier Milei he's a puppet of Israel. There's pictures of him kissing the wall. Here, I'll show you. Want to see? Here's our guy. Here he is. That guy is now president of Argentina. He repeals the law that says foreigners can't buy up land that has been victim of a fire. He repealed it. Why would he do that? Well, because it looks like he's working for them. And
okay, so Javier Milei, I believe he was a libertarian, and he won the presidency, or whatever they call it, in Argentina. Well, this is why I say libertarianism is inherently Jewish. Libertarianism is do as thou wilt. They don't like authority. They don't like governing authorities, which the Bible says we're supposed to respect. And so this libertarian is there kissing the wall. He's at the Wailing Wall and I mean, you name a big name politician, whether it's Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, a number of big name politicians, where do you find them eventually? At the wall. And that is a disrespect to Jesus Christ, right? That's denying Christ, because Christ prophesied of the destruction of that temple in AD 70. That temple is worthless. It has no value. It has no value spiritually. It is dead. And yet you have people going there and paying homage to a brick and mortar structure, when the temple of God is in heaven. It's the true temples in heaven, where Christ does his high priest ministration from his Davidic throne. Okay. And we see that Javier Milei lifted a law, receded a law, and now foreigners can buy land here. And these Israeli tourists were caught setting fire to land in Argentina. And so now foreigners can go buy up that land. Okay, let's listen to some more.
Let me just, here's what, let me do this.
I know you haven't heard everything I'm about to tell you. So there are massive wildfires destroying Patagonia right now. 50,000 acres have been burnt down. They started around January 5th. Less than 1 month ago, December 9th, Javier Milei announced that foreigners could buy Argentinian land and develop it after fires. Isn't that convenient? He also, even more conveniently, cut the funding for fire services around 70%. Argentina, along with Brazil, Chile, and Venezuela, make up what is called the Southern Common Market. They've signed agreements with Europe and the United Kingdom. Whoever governs these territories will control the food supply for Europe and the United Kingdom. In 1904, Theodor Herzl, the ideological creator of Israel, wrote about Palestine or Argentina, saying that we will take what is given to us and what is selected by Jewish public opinion. In Patagonia, Israeli Defense Forces do land surveys for the state of Israel in both Chile and Argentina. Chilean Senator Henio Tuma Sadan says they're constantly gathering more information on the topography of the region. They may know more than the Chilean army. This Argentinian wildlife survivor says he's no longer shocked by what is happening. He says it is 100% deliberate and international. It is a land grab driven by the value of their minerals. He also says the mainstream media will not speak out for them, and neither will the so-called new media. Yesterday, 4 Israeli tourists were detained by Chile's park rangers for starting an illegal fire. This isn't the first time this has happened. This has happened dozens of times in the last 2 decades. There's even an Israeli organization called Backpackers Without Borders. It sounds super innocent, but these people have been the primary culprits responsible for lighting many fires in Patagonia. Some people refer to this as Plan Andina. This has been waved away as a rampant conspiracy.
When I lived in Valparaiso, there was a time when I was a neighbor of an Israelite community, an evangelical Israeli community. And one day I had some beers with an Israeli descendant. And he told me that Chile and also Argentina, especially Patagonia, belongs to them.
Javier Milei.
So the Andina plan, right? And of course it's labeled as a conspiracy, right? They'll say it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy. But you heard what this gentleman said, that they want Chile, Argentina, Venezuela. They believe it's theirs. Israel, for some reason, believe that they have a right to that land, that's theirs. Well, Javier Milei, look at the president of Mexico. She's Jewish, right? And you see Israel now. They already got America. They already got Britain. They already got Ireland. They already got most Western nations, Germany. They got Australia. Anywhere you see so-called hate speech laws being implemented, just know that the Jews have taken over that country. And so now they're going after South America, Mexico. And so Javier Milei receded a law now allowing foreigners to buy properties that are destroyed in fires. And you see these fires being set by these Israeli tourists. Well, why would they? What is it that is motivating Israel to do this? Well, it goes back to the Old Testament. They want a worldwide Davidic kingdom. They believe that they have the divine right to rule over the world and to rule over Gentiles. Okay. We heard about the Noahide laws and everything like that. I think basically what we're looking at is the rise of Tikkun Olam. And Tikkun Olam is going to be basically the New World Order, right? Now you look at Revelation 17, what it says about Babylon the Great. For God, Revelation 17:17, for God did put in their hearts to do his mind and to come to one mind and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God should be accomplished. And the woman whom thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now, Israel is clearly identified as Babylon in the Bible, the Revelation. But again, this is going to be a worldwide, the Antichrist kingdom will be worldwide. Now, I don't believe in fatalism. We don't know if this is the latter times, like the generation where Christ will come. So it's a dangerous game to play to say, well, this is just fate. It's going to happen. It's Bible prophecy. It's going to happen. There's nothing we can do to stop it because we don't know. Throughout every generation, people have thought this is the end, and it doesn't happen. So it behooves us as Christians, as patriots, American patriots, because God doesn't want his people just sitting on their hands doing nothing. We need to win back this country. This is a Christian nation. It was founded as such. I mean, why do you think Hollywood makes so many blasphemous movies about Jesus Christ? The music. If you stand up for Christian values, whether it's at your workplace, whether it's in sports leagues, you're going to get vilified. Because there's no way you can stand up for the values of Jesus Christ and yet not offend people. Israel believes they have the divine right to the whole world. So let's see what else they have to say.
Passed strict hate speech laws where people will go to jail for up to 9 years for anti-Semitism. So discussing Israeli...
And also Argentina, especially Patagonia, belongs to them.
Javier Milei passed strict hate speech laws where people will go to jail for up to 9 years for anti-Semitism. So discussing Israeli purchase of land or discussing conspiracies attached to this is considered anti-Semitism and will land you in jail.
Okay, so this is what we have now, is now Javier Milei, this libertarian, and libertarians, you know, they talk so much about their worldview being the best worldview. The libertarian worldview is extremely Jewish. Again, it's not liberty in Christ that they promote. It's liberty from being governed. But this libertarian president, what does he do? Now he's enacting hate speech laws where you can get 9 years in prison for quote unquote spreading anti-Semitic theories. But what if it's true? See, this is why the truth is hated. Jesus says the truth will set you free. What's whispered in the air, shout from the rooftops. But now in Argentina, you get 9 years in prison for spreading anti-Semitic theories. One of them is this Andina plan. One of them is this where now foreigners can purchase land destroyed by fire. And it's Israel tourists that are starting these fires. And just remember Revelation 13:16, he causes all the small and the great and the rich and the poor and free and the bond, that there be given them a mark on their right hand or upon their forehead. Who controls finance? The Jews. Oh, would we all know the mark of the beast? It's a monetary mark, right? That has to do with monetary, the ability to buy and sell. It's spiritual, primarily, but there is a physical aspect of the mark of the beast. Well, you look at the apostles and Jesus, who were they brought before? They were brought before the Pharisees. They were brought before the elders of the Babylonian religion, which is rabbinic, which was Pharisaic Judaism. And now we have Pharisaic Judaism's birth child, rabbinic Judaism. And what were they? They were brought before the synagogues, the chief priests, and they were preaching that Christ, Jesus is the Christ, Jesus is King. And they were getting persecuted and jailed. Let's continue to listen.
So if this is happening right out in the open, they're doing this right in our faces, Scott, and everywhere you look, it's always the Zionists. It's the craziest thing. Whether it's Yemen, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Libya, whether it's Syria, whether it's Iran, whether it's Venezuela, now Argentina, are they just so take it wherever you want? But it seems like they're the most evil, and they have Donald Trump in a stranglehold. They have him.
Jimmy, you know I was just debanked, right? And
yes.
Now you want me to jump knee deep into this?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, pal. I appreciate it. No, but look.
What did I just talk about? The mark of the beast. What did Scott Ritter just say? He was debanked. Jimmy Dore's getting pressure on him for what? They're critiquing Zionism. They're critiquing Israel. They're calling Israel out for its genocidal war on the Palestinians and for its heavy influence in America, in the United States government, and getting us involved in foreign affairs and foreign wars that has caused and is causing and will cause blowback from other nations. And whatever you feel about 9/11, whether you feel it was an inside job, that Mossad was behind it, or whether it was Islamic terrorists, it doesn't matter. That was a result of our support for Israel and doing their bidding against their enemies and our involvement in the Middle East. And so people get deplatformed, they get debanked. And what is Revelation? It's a taste of the mark of the beast, meaning you cannot buy or sell unless you have that mark. That mark is a mark of authority. And what is that mark of authority? In a sense, going to the Wailing Wall, paying homage, which is a disrespect to Christ. That's not even the Holy Land anymore, according to Hebrews 11 through 13. And again, we have a nation to preserve. And too many Christians have their head in the clouds and the sand and saying, oh, well, the rapture, which is false. Or even if you believe in just the second advent of Christ, we don't know when it's going to be. Jesus said we're not going to know. And people are banking on that. But what about your offspring? What about their offspring? What about 3-4 generations from now? Are you going to leave them in a world of Tikkun Olam, which will be hell on earth? If you're a Christian, if you're a patriot, if you love your nation, you believe in sovereign nations instead of globalism. Well, Israel's behind the United Nations. Israel's corrupted the Vatican II, and now the Vatican II is basically a Zionist church. Let's listen some more.
When the Israelis say they're going to buy the United States Congress, when they put a price on it, $100 million, and then they actually buy the United States Congress, and we start talking about it, we're called anti-Semitic. Yeah. They've been doing this in our face for a long time. And when I say they, I'm not talking about American Jews. I'm not sitting here picking on, I'm talking about Zionists. I'm talking about the community, Christian and Jewish alike, that blindly support the Israeli Zionist experiment.
Okay, so I got a problem with what he just said. And we're never going to win. Those on the right wing, people on the right, are never going to win this war against the great Satan, which is Israel, if we keep qualifying our stance against them. Because what did Scott Ritter said? Oh, I'm not anti-Semitic. First of all, there's no such thing as anti-Semitism. The whole concept of anti-Semitism is from the Bolsheviks that came up with that concept in order to imprison Russian Christians for speaking out against the Bolsheviks, the Bolshevik Jews, and identifying the Jews as the huge influence in Bolshevism, in Bolshevik Russia. There is no such thing as anti-Semitism. So I disagree with the way he uses that. And he says, well, this is not, towards all Jews and American Jews. American Jews support this. American Jews support Zionism. They're only loyal to America insofar as America is loyal to Israel. Look at Ben Shapiro, for example. And I've heard this just from regular Jews. Let's go back.
And they control so much. It's not a conspiracy theory when you find out that people are deliberately placed in media. I mean, I love talking to reporters who are like, come on, that's just anti-Semitic and that's just a media conspiracy. And I'm like, no, it's not. I was hired by NBC News when I resigned from as a weapons inspector. And I saw firsthand how every producer had an APAC business card. And every time I'd go and do a show, I'd have a producer pull me aside. Hey, Scott, great job. Hey, here's my card. Give me a call. We need to talk about this. APAC manipulates the news. They are the producers of the news. They are the money behind the news. They are the executives. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's real, but we're not allowed to talk about it. They do it right in our face, and we can't talk about it. I don't know enough about the Argentinian thing. I saw the same stories you did, and I'm shocked. I normally want to do a heck of a lot more research before I jump in. But what I would say is that it doesn't shock me if this is true, because the same pattern is there. They do it right in your face. They're flagrant about it. And the moment you criticize it, you're the bad guy. You're anti-Semitic. 6 million Jews died. Don't ever forget that. And how dare you raise this? You anti-Semitic so-and-so. And then if you keep speaking, we're going to make your speech illegal. And for the Americans out there who believe in the First Amendment, you do know that laws are being considered by Congress to make any speech deemed anti-Semitic unlawful.
That's right.
Now that's huge. Did you hear what Scott Ritter just said? That they are already considering laws to deem anti-Semitic speech as hateful and therefore unlawful. That's un-American. That is un-American. There's no such thing as hate speech for Americans. That's a European thing. Obviously brought to Europe by the Jews, by the Zionists, by the Marxists, by the communist Jews. If that happens in America, where they pass hate speech laws where you can go to prison for anti-Semitic speech, quote unquote anti-Semitic, that's a huge game changer. That's unthinkable for America. A once Christian nation, founded on Christianity, free speech, the First Amendment. And what happened in Acts 17? Because now, guess what's being labeled anti-Semitic? And this controversy blew up, I guess it was probably a year ago, with Candace Owens and her departure from Daily Wire. What was the whole controversy centered upon? Christ is king. And what did you have? All these evangelicals, all these Christian Zionist evangelicals, what did they do? And even Catholics. They said, oh, you got to be careful about saying Christ is king because it can be anti-Semitic. This is Christians, a basic statement of faith. Christians are encouraging other Christians to be careful saying it because it might offend the Jews. Well, what had happened in Acts 17? They took Jason and his household were giving shelter to the apostles. They took Jason. The Jews got men of the baser sort, thugs. And you think of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, how anti-Christian they are, and took them before the rulers, the Gentile rulers, and said, these, what do they say? These are acting contrary to the decrees of Caesar saying that there's another king, one Jesus. It was unlawful to proclaim Jesus as king. That was anti-Semitic at that time, to say Jesus is king. Jews were dragging Christians before the Gentile rulers, saying they're saying Jesus is king. These are contrary to the decrees of Caesar. Why? Because Jesus is king was the doctrine. Christ is king was the doctrine of the early church. Do not buy into their speech. There is no such thing as anti-Semitism. It is a figment. It is a category of the mind that doesn't exist. There is no such thing. And we as Americans need to stop caring about the Holocaust, which I'm a Holocaust denier 100%. We need to stop caring about it and being more concerned with our fellow Christians who have died in the 20th century, up to 100 million by Bolshevik communists, which is a Jewish ideology, a Jewish movement that killed Christians. But yet, many of our law enforcement, they have to go to Holocaust museums or they get trained, Mossad training, and but yet nobody bats an eye when Christ is defiled by Hollywood, when Christ is trampled on in the public square. You say you offended Jew? Oh my God, the world's going to end to these people. This is in America. How is we as Americans, the spirit of 76 can allow hate speech laws to be passed? It'll no longer be America at that point. Like I said, America's already fading fast. Now, most people have given up the fight. Most people have thrown in the towel, either by one, thinking Trump's the answer, and he's made this country worse. But we're not going to focus on Trump because he's just the tool. And it's fading fast. And Christians are just waiting for their heavenly reward, and don't do anything here on the earth. And a lot of people on the right, they want to be National Socialists, and no, we're not Germany, we're America. We're not fascists, we're not Italy, we're not National Socialists. We are a Christian republic. How many patriots are left? Anyways, let's continue to listen.
And action is being justified to deplatform people who are so-called anti-Semitic. I wouldn't be surprised if people have been debanked because of this. It has become a crime to have a discerning mind. And again, I'm not somebody who promotes anti-Semitic thinking at all. I will give my life to defend a Jewish synagogue from people who are trying to burn it down. I believe in freedom of religion in this country, and I believe that every religion has a right to be practiced the way that it wants to be practiced without fear of interference or intimidation. But
now let me talk about that. That's an interesting thing that he just said. Now, again, here he is. He's cucking for the Jews. Oh, no, I'll defend their right. I'll defend a synagogue. And, yeah, obviously we don't want to see bad things happen to a place of, wherever, we don't want to, there should be nothing to harm people, right? That should be a given. But just the fact that he's mentioning that shows these people, even though they're brave in one sense in exposing Zionism and the heavy Zionist Jewish influence in our government and their attempt to take over other nations, they're still on the other side of the mouth. Oh, but I'll defend a synagogue and all. No, that should not even come out of your mouth, because it shows weakness, and we need to be more concerned about defending Christian churches that are getting shot up by trans and getting these leftists going in there in Minneapolis and barging in. That's what our concern should be. That's what our concern should be. And so, and again, as far as freedom of religion goes, just to let you know, the original intent of freedom of religion in America was for Christian denominations. Now, I'm not saying that is a tough situation, because, like I said, we are not, okay, you're not National Socialist Germany, we're not fascist Italy. But at the same time, our public square, I'll just say this, the public square should only be represented by Christianity. That Christianity should be the only faith represented in the public square. The only faith represented in the public square. And if you solve the border issue, you're going to eliminate a lot of the issues we're starting to have with Islam, right? And so how we deal with the freedom of religion question, that is a very tough issue to do it in a way that is functional, we're able to do it. But I'll say this, I'll say it right now. In the public square, the only religion that should be represented from the West Coast to East Coast, south to the border of Canada, Alaska and Hawaii, is Christianity. And it's proven that this was a Christian nation. All the state constitutions acknowledge Christ. So listen.
The Zionist movement is one of the greatest threats to the United States of America today, because they are promoting values that are un-American. We have a duty and responsibility as Americans to speak out when we see things we disagree with. And my God, if you're an American and you don't disagree with this Zionist enterprise, you're not much of an American. And yet we tolerate people being shut down because they dare question this narrative. I don't know if they've come after you, Jimmy, but I mean,
of course, yes. My phone, my iCloud account, and my computer was all Pegasus hacked.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying a price for telling the truth. You understand. You're a man of great courage. I respect you greatly, because this is not easy. This truth-telling business, especially when the enemy that you're going up against is one of the most powerful enemies in the world, the Zionist enterprise.
Okay, so I'll just leave the video up, but I'm going to touch on what they just said. These two men are very courageous. Don't get me wrong. I disagree with some of the what Scott Ritter seems, the kind of saying, yeah, I'll defend a synagogue and I'm not anti-Semitic. That type of thing I disagree with, because there is no such thing as anti-Semitism, and I'm not going to virtue signal for synagogues. I'm not saying he's virtue signaling, but I'm more concerned with defiling churches. But they're right. They're very courageous men. It's going to take men of courage in this day that we're living in. You're going to have to be willing to sacrifice and lose. I got fired from State Farm, but it's going to take more than that to get our country back than just being fired from your job. And just talking about Israel land grabbing in Argentina, Venezuela, Chile, and there a Jewish president in Mexico. Look what it says here. And again, Revelation 17. The 10 horns that thou sawest are 10 kings, verse 12, who have received no kingdom as of yet, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one mind, and they give their power and authority into the beast. The beast is Israel, the great Satan. The 10 kings, 10 is symbolic of the whole world, not necessarily 10 kings, but the symbolic of the whole world. And what do? They hand their authority and power over to the beast. And how, you ask, why would these supposedly sovereign nations hand over their power to Israel? The banking system. The banking system. Who controls the banks? Who controls the gold? Controls the world. I care not who makes your laws. It's about who controls the money. And they get these, a lot of these leaders are compromised and they have dirt on them, and or they get these loans and they owe, and they have to pay with interest. They're in debt to these Jewish bankers. So, and there's a spiritual component too. It's not just all monetary. But anyways, that.
They own everything, and they own media so they can shape public opinion about you. They own the banking industry so they can run your finances, and they control governments. Donald Trump was bought off by Miriam Adelson to the tune of $100 million. He admits it.
He brags about it.
He brags about it, and he built one of the most pro-Zionist cabinets imaginable. I mean, literally, the United States has become an extension of Israel. And it's embarrassing when Mark Levine can go up to the President of the United States and put his arm around him like he owns the day.
That's right.
Mr. President. My God, what is that? The president should have elbowed him in the face, kicked him in the balls, and put him down and said, you don't touch the President of the United States like that. I am the chief executive. I am the commander in chief. You know, don't bow before me, but don't come up like I'm like you control me. But that's what Mark Levine did, because he controls the president, because he's part of the Zionist enterprise, because he's part of AIPAC. And they own this man. And when the president's that compliant to Mark Levine, understand how he is to Benjamin Netanyahu and everybody else.
Yep.
(2016) on the eve of the election. I wrote an article on my blog and I said, America on the eve of destruction, and I talked about the deception of the Donald Trump experiment, and that this was going to be the beginning of the ruin of our nation. Can you honestly say our country is better off now than it was 10 years ago before Donald Trump became president? I mean, his mentor was Roy Cohn, a Jew who was vicious. His daughter's married to Jared Kushner. She converted to Judaism. He was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know to what extent, or if it was a good relationship or not, but why are we surprised that things have turned out like this? We're in a mega trend. The economy's on a free fall. We're in a mega trend. Everything that Donald Trump's promised, he's failed to deliver. Why? Because he never intended to, because he suckered people in. And I was surprised, being a patriot from the early 90s, that people felt for a president being the solution. All he's done is get involved in foreign affairs on behalf of Israel. All he's done is send billions of dollars to Israel. All he's done is with these tariffs, and the economy continues to tank, continues to decline steadily, and the food price is enormous. But he's owned by Israel. And if it wasn't Donald Trump, it'd be somebody else. Anyways.
Well,
and now I'm going to be ruined financially, but that's okay.
Yeah, so when they got into when they hacked my my phone, my iCloud account, not just my phone, but my iCloud account, which has everything I've ever done through Apple and iCloud for 20, 30 years. It's in there. They got it. So not only are they trying to get compromising stuff on me, I'm sure they're planting compromising stuff in there too.
Yeah.
That's a big part of that. So no matter
AI is I had a fascinating discussion with a guy, because he hasn't given me permission to use his name. I won't use his name, but he's very intelligent, and he does angel funding for AI startups in Silicon Valley. And he's a big proponent of AI. But we were talking about different things like making music and writing poetry and how it can be used. I'm against AI. I said it dumbs people down, but he's saying no, if it's used right, it can be great. And he loves it in terms of movies. And what he said is that AI today can do computer generated imagery that is so realistic that you won't need actors anymore. And if that's the case, Jimmy, then they can do whatever they want on your on your data or on anybody. I mean, it's frightening how this is and again, Jimmy, we can't trust law enforcement to do the right thing. It used to be that we would put good people in there to protect us. The National Security Division of the FBI is an enemy of the United States. Every single one of those FBI agents has committed multiple felonies in their lifetime. It is a criminal enterprise on par with the La Cosa Nostra. And these are the guys that can plant stuff on your computers. It's game, set, match if they decide to come after you.
And that's exactly right. The FBI is an enemy of the American people. It's an enemy of patriots. There's William Cooper produced in his book, Behold a Pale Horse, there were documents where, according to the government, the federal government, patriots are the number one enemy, especially patriots who are Christian. Christian patriots are the number one enemy. This is all the way back to the early mid-70s. The people like me are deemed the number one enemy of the United States. Why? Because we actually love our country and we want to see it keep its original principles, a Christian republic, free speech, no such thing as hate speech, and the right to bear arms. And for this to be a Christian nation. That was the original America. And because we want to keep it to the original intent of the Founding Fathers, no foreign entanglements, we are deemed as potential terrorists, enemies of the state. Oh, look at all in 2020, Black Lives Matter riots. All these cops bowed down to Black Lives Matter, an anti-Christian hate organization. You hear all the time when Antifa and right-wingers get in these protests, how Antifa's given carte blanche to do what they want and not be punished, and right-wingers, even defending themselves, they get imprisoned. Like a Rob Rondo.
Maybe they haven't perfected the technology just yet because, I'm not stupid. And, there's ways that you can digitally re-engineer things to find out if it's AI or if it's real. But, technology is just advancing at such a rate right now that, again, it doesn't have to be something that convicts you. It just has to be something that can shape public perception. If they start putting, Jimmy Dore sex tape videos out there, it doesn't matter if it's real.
Right.
It just matters if enough people believe it's real.
That's right.
And that's the purpose. Their job isn't necessarily to put you in jail. Their job is to destroy you. That's why if their job was to put me in jail, I would have had FBI agents coming through my door yesterday at the same time they froze my bank account. But they're not doing that because I haven't done anything wrong. Their job is to destroy me, to ruin me.
Right.
And that's what they do. It's scary that we live in the United States of America and we have the Federal Bureau of Investigation allowing this National Security Division to continue to operate. And I think you hit the nail on the head because it's the same people that Biden had, and they're doing the same thing under Donald Trump, which means Donald Trump is owned by the deep state.
That's right. Instead of being their enemy, which he maybe was a little bit in his first term, he's completely rolled. And that's why he was allowed to be president. And if he was if he was really an enemy of the deep state, they wouldn't have just hit his ear.
No, he'd be pink mist.
That's right. And I don't even think that was a bullet that hit his ear. I have lots of theories about what actually hit his ear, but it wasn't a bullet. Come see me live on tour, February 20th.
Donald Trump was never their enemy. Never their enemy. I believe this was planned. I believe that the New World Order intentionally put Donald Trump to be the Republican candidate, then president. to stir up everybody, and he's being used as the one to bring America down. Now, he's older now. People talk of a third presidency. I don't know how that could happen. He does seem kind of too old now, but it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter who it is. They'll have someone else to take the baton from him, whether it's a Republican or Democrat. And Revelation 17:8, it says this: the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and is about to come up out of the abyss. And that's what's happened. The beast has come up out of the abyss. The great Satan Israel, Babylon the Great. And he'll go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, they whose name has not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast, how that he was and is not and shall come. See, true Christians, their names are written in the Lamb's book of life, will not bow to beasts. They will not bow to Israel or support it. How many patriots do we have left? It's not cool to be a patriot anymore, because you even have, like I said, even people on the right are saying, oh, we're done with America. We want either Catholic monarchy, we want a fascist state, or national socialism. We want like authoritarianism. No, those are not the answer. I'm an American. I'm an American patriot. I simply want what this country was intended to be, a free Christian republic. Anyways, hail America, hail Christ, hail victory.